some things can never be relived. There's some things that the only way that you will ever know about it is if someone else tells you about it, because the time has passed and you're not going to be alive to experience those sort of things again. Hopefully, in some cases. And anyway, it goes both ways. But one of the things that I learned about when I was living on the ranch in Etchulette was about the Indian boarding schools down in LA. You hear a lot about that from the elders in out in Smith River. And one thing is that whenever a car comes down the road onto the ranch, usually Phil's the first one to see it. But whoever's the first one to see it, they yell car. And everybody hides from the car until someone can determine who it is. And it's kind of fun at first. But sometimes when you're hiding and waiting for them to identify the car, you think about what the elders have told you about the boarding schools. Because the reason that you're hiding from the cars is because it used to be that the cars were coming to take the kids to the boarding school, where they would take them down to LA and teach them not to be Indians, make them football stars and stuff. So I spent a lot of time out there talking to Happy, and we've become good friends over the last few years. And every once in a while, though, depending on either one of our sobriety at the time, you know, you see you just like when you're hiding from the cars, you could feel the circumstance that's gone on out there for a long time. And one day, we were talking about Indian devils, you know what I'm saying? And there's a lot of different Indian devils. And there's a trail across the street from Audrey Street that goes down, to the dunes. And it's a pretty mystical trail, if you ever walk down it. It's beautiful, there's no place like it in the world, like out at Lake Tolowa. And that's just a fact. And there's things that you will see out there that you will never see anywhere else on this planet. But we would talk about, there's one of the Indian devils is a deer that stands on its hind legs, which, if you've got any Irish or Scottish ancestry in you, that might sound familiar to you. There's also a deer that stands on its hind legs in the woods, in Scotland and in Ireland and in England, that the Druids had a relationship with. They didn't call him the Indian devil, obviously. They called him something different. You know. But anyways, but one of the times that I was talking, to Happy about the Indian devils, and he had mentioned a couple of relatives had seen, Leonard James being one of them, had seen one of the Indian devils out there. But anyways, but as he was telling it, he slipped off into into a weird zone where he said, "But you know why that I don't tell anybody about that old Shtalawa stuff? It's because nobody cares. Nobody cares." And that was his way of brushing off the conversation that time. And it was not always that way. Sometimes you'd have a long, good conversation, but sometimes he would slip into that mode. And there's a lot of Indians I know that get in that mode at times, and it's hard to, especially looking as white as I do, it's hard to. Sometimes it's hard to learn from them when they slip into that mode, because because unfortunately, all they can see is white at times. But I just think that there's no way that you guys are going to be able to go and experience the things that I experienced talking to a lot of elders that are still alive, unless you go out and talk to the elders that are still alive. And and I know that he, sometimes when I go and visit him, I know that he's been out there for weeks by himself or just with his brothers. You know what I mean? And that's really how he feels, is that no one cares. And I can imagine him, at the boarding school, just trying to be an Indian. And maybe the teacher's telling him that nobody cares then. Maybe that's where it came from, And I think about that sometimes when you're hiding from the cars. Even this day, if you go out there and somebody yells car, you better hide, or you'll at least get made fun of at the very least. But I just think it's a tragedy that no one cares. And and there's no way that I can make you feel like I feel, but hopefully I don't have to. You know what I mean? Hopefully you understand what I'm talking about. Have a good Sunday, guys. I have to work as usual, but I'm planning on being optimistic about it. And everybody, some prayers up for my girlfriend. She's got to go and visit her mom. She's going through a stressful time in her life. You know what I mean? And I'm kind of concerned about that. So I'm trying to be prayerful and reverent and all that. But anyways, everybody have a blessed day, and just try to take advantage of the old folks that you have to pick their brains before that you can't do it anymore, before they exit this stage and you don't have the opportunity to ask them anymore, because it's going to be a shame when there's no you can't even imagine. That's how Nazis and people like that get away with stuff, is because they make you forget about things. You know what I mean? The there's a saying that, like, the smartest thing that the devil ever does is convince you that hell doesn't exist. You know what I mean? But I tell you what, a world without elders is going to be hell, and you guys better fucking soak up the knowledge while you can.